Welcome to the Soulful Success Podcast, where we're redefining what it means to live, lead, and succeed. I'm Kyle Diot, a mentor and guide for visionaries and conscious creators who are ready to bridge personal growth, spiritual depth, and practical success. Each week, I'll share honest conversations and grounded insights to help you elevate your life, not by doing more, but by becoming more of who you truly are. This is where ambition meets alignment, and where the next evolution of success begins. Welcome to Soulful Success. There's a particular kind of person who knows a lot about themselves. They've read the books, listened to the podcasts, done the courses. They understand their patterns, their conditioning, their triggers. They're someone who takes their growth seriously. And yet something isn't shifting. Not for lack of trying, not for lack of information. The struggle they started with is still there. Quieter maybe, more understood, but still there. And every time it surfaces, the response is the same. Go deeper, learn more, find the next insight. What I want to sit with today is whether the pursuit of personal growth can sometimes be the very thing keeping change from happening. Now, this isn't about you not trying. It's about the trying happening inside a framework that was never designed to actually move you. You see, what happens is there's a pattern where you consume the books, the podcasts, the courses, because learning feels like progress. And it does create some progress, some small wins, moments of recognition, some partial shifts, but just enough to keep the cycle feeling worthwhile. So the learning itself feels like growth, but it's not the same as growth. The real work, the application, isn't happening. Most people don't realize that knowing something doesn't create change. You see, most people assume that understanding a pattern means that you've addressed it, that the insight alone will translate into lived difference. But I'm here to tell you that knowledge without application is just more information. Application is where change actually happens. And application in the personal growth space is self-paced. It requires self-accountability, and it's rarely taught. And what the industry teaches you is what to know, but not how to live it. So the learning creates a veil where you look and feel like you're growing and you're someone who's investing in themselves, but underneath, your day-to-day experience hasn't fundamentally shifted yet. And so what happens is that you think more learning is the answer, when the learning itself has become the avoidance. So when the struggle continues despite all the learning, then we start to get into self-questioning. Then, we've been doing all the learning and we should know all this stuff, but then we become critical and introduce some negative self-talk, some self-criticism. And this could even potentially lead into questioning your own worth and value because what you've learned is not actually being practiced in real life in your day-to-day. And this will lead to you being hard on yourself for not changing. So I want to be clear here. You're not stuck because you don't know enough. You're stuck because knowing has replaced doing. Think about a time that you picked up a book on boundaries because you kept saying yes when you meant to say no. You read it, got some clarity, maybe started pausing before responding in a few situations. It felt like progress, so you moved on to the next one. This time on nervous system regulation or self-worth or people-pleasing. Each book gave you something small. But 2 years later, you're still saying yes when you mean no. The original pattern is still running. You just know a lot more about why. And then, because the industry has told you you're broken and learning is the solution, you go back to consuming more. The cycle reinforces itself. And so maybe some things that might come up, I just need to understand this better. I need to find the right approach. If I learn more about myself, I'll be able to change. And so the pursuit of growth has become a substitute for the actual experience of it. And there's also the emotional experience underneath this that is actually really exhausting as well. Maybe you move from optimism, from learning, followed by some of the same struggles, followed by self-criticism, followed by more learning. The cycle feels productive, but it isn't. The personal growth industry quietly tells you that you are broken, That belief is what's keeping the cycle in place, not the lack of knowledge. And so what I've seen in the personal growth industry is that it frames everyone as a problem to be solved. That framing creates the belief that something is fundamentally wrong with you, and that belief drives the endless consumption, because if you're broken, you need fixing. But I want to be clear, you are not broken. You are adjusting. The industry profits from you believing that you need more fixing. You aren't broken. You're just in the process of adjusting. Your identity is not a problem, it's in motion. So what looks like being stuck is often just being in between versions of yourself. And your emotions in this process are not signs that something is wrong. They're signals, data about what's true, what's misaligned, what's ready to shift. And the industry rarely teaches you how to use your emotions as information. Instead, they become evidence of how broken you still are. Seeing yourself as broken is not the truth. It's a framework you inherited. So when the pursuit of growth becomes your identity, there is no arrival, just an endless next layer to address. When you spend years inside a framework that tells you you are broken, you absorb it. The fixing becomes your identity. You become someone who is always working on yourself, which sounds like growth from the outside. But if working on yourself has become who you are, not what you're moving through, then there's always another layer. There's always another pattern to address, another reason you're not quite there yet. And the personal growth journey becomes a permanent state rather than a passage through something. The journey became the destination without you noticing. What would it look like to apply one thing instead of learning 10 more? What would it look like to trust what you already know is enough to live from it? You see, you don't need more information. You need to live with what you already know. The learning keeps the hope alive, but it's also what keeps the change at a distance. Stopping the consumption feels like giving up, but continuing it feels like running in place. The question isn't whether to grow. It's whether the way you've been pursuing growth is actually moving you or keeping you busy with the idea of it. More growth isn't always the answer. Sometimes the most aligned next step is to stop learning and start living what you already know. If any of this is landing for you, and you've been sitting with your human design for a while but still find it hard to actually live it day to day, that's exactly what my human design integration sessions are for. It's not another layer of learning. It's a conversation about how your design is already showing up in your life and what's getting in the way of living from it. The link to book is in the show notes. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Before you go, I want to invite you to slow down for a moment and notice what stood out for you in this episode. There's nothing to do with it, no insight to apply, no conclusion to reach. Just notice what stayed with you. A phrase, a feeling, or a moment that felt familiar in your body. Sometimes the most important shifts don't happen through action, but through allowing something to be seen and felt. Thanks for taking this time for yourself. I'll see you next time.